Body image plays a key role as a theme interwoven throughout several of these stories, such as Frankenstein, The Bluest Eye, Nosedive, Enoch and the Gorilla, and Ex Machina.
Originally in Frankenstein, Victor imagines the monster as being beautiful, but when the monster actually comes about, he is hideous to behold. The monster knows he is ugly, and this causes disruption with people because they don't like him.
So a quote that we chose from Frankenstein happens in chapter 5 when Victor first creates the monster. It says, "I beheld the wretch, the miserable monster whom I had created." And it goes on to say, "And his eyes, if eyes they may be called, were fixed on me, catching and fearing each sound as if it were to announce the approach of the demoniacal corpse to which I had so miserably given life." And this basically shows how much of a misfit the monster is, that his own creator doesn't want to deal with him.
Okay, in The Bluest Eyes, Pecola wishes that she herself had bluest eyes due to the fact that her mother or her parents projected their feelings upon her. Her mother thought she was ugly, so then her herself thought she was ugly, and she was bullied by her classmates. She thinks that blue eyes will fix her problems because all the white children in her community she sees as being beautiful, and so she thinks that if she is beautiful, that her mother and her parents will accept her.
Okay, so in The Bluest Eye, there's actually multiple quotes that can relate to body image, but some that we found stood out was from chapter 1. "It had occurred to Pecola some time ago that if her eyes were different, that is to say beautiful, she herself would be different." This basically is the white norms put on black families in this time period. And this quote comes from her mother, Pauline. "She was never able, after her education in the movies, to look at a face and not assign it some category in the scale of absolute beauty, and the scale is one she absorbed in full from the silver screen," in chapter 3. So this is when Pauline went to the movies and saw all the white norms represented and how beautiful they were compared to her own complexion. And yeah.
So Lacey was so obsessed with her image and wanting to get her apartment discounted on price, and also she wanted to become just like Naomi, that in return her rating actually went down, and with that she turned insane.
In a few clips on Nosedive, we see how influential social media really can be. The very first scene, we see Lacey running down the street working on her physical fitness to get high ratings. However, towards the end of the show, Lacey kind of goes haywire and decides that no one should dictate how she should look or feel.
So in Enoch and the Gorilla, it talks about introducing Enoch, and it talks about how when he was little, he got his teeth chipped by his dad. So there's my horrible drawing of his teeth being chipped. And how the other kids laugh at him because of his appearance and because he seems like such a child when he's actually like 18. So then he sees this sign, right? And it's talking about this gorilla that wants to meet him, and he can put his differences aside because it's an animal that actually wants to shake his hand.
Okay. So Enoch was not very fond of children, but children always seemed to like to look at him. And so like children really don't really know better. Like when they see when they see people out of the ordinary, they will stare. And I feel like it really connects to like today's in society, because nowadays people are trying to stand out. And back then, like Enoch, he just wants to like fit in, and like that's how it was like during that time.
So in Ex Machina, we're introduced to Ava, who is an artificial intelligence robot, which it's interesting because she doesn't look like your typical robot. She looks like a female until she's masked by clothes. Then you can't tell.
As you can see in this image, Ava looks like a robot, but at the end of the film, she puts skin and clothes on to make herself look human-like. It's crazy to see how realistic she looks because not even the helicopter pilot assumed she was a robot. So the binary oppositions that we chose was beautiful, ugly. So this flower would represent beautiful, as of this man with a unibrow and some buck teeth would represent ugly. And where we would usually see these at is Frankenstein, because of his creation. Victor created the monster as not beautiful or ugly. We see it in The Bluest Eye because of Piccola, because of her race, and she thinks that if she has blue eyes then she would be beautiful, but she doesn't have blue eyes, so she thinks that she's not beautiful. And then we see it in Enoch and the Gorilla because of Enoch. He has chipped teeth and everyone looks at him differently. So and then another one that we picked was fit and non-fit. So this muscle towards this arm with no muscle. And we see fit and unfit in Nosedive, when Lacey is obsessed with having her ratings up. And then we also see it in The Bluest Eye again, with Piccola because of her race. And then we see it in Enoch and the Gorilla because he's not your usual average teen that you would see, because he's 18 and he's at this kid thing seeing a gorilla. And then we also see it in Frankenstein because he's so intelligent. He reads books and then he learns 2 languages, but then when he tries to talk to people, the people automatically get scared because of his looks, and because what they see is usually not what someone who is smart would be.
So also another part of the misfit theory, it talks about shame. And it mentions how shame usually leads to projecting disgust on someone through self-repudiation. So basically the shame you feel in yourself, you project it on someone else, and that causes othering. So we actually see this in 3 of the mentioned novels. In Frankenstein, Victor is actually disgusted with the monster because he does not turn out how he wants him to look. And so he's basically kicked out from Victor because he abandons him and leaves him to fend for his own. In The Bluest Eye, of course, Piccola doesn't have blue eyes, so she's othered, as well as the rest of the black people, because they don't meet the whites' standards of beauty, so they're not welcome into it. For Nosedive, Lacey used to have 4 stars, and she viewed anyone else below her as bad. However, as soon as she hits 1 star, she realizes that readings shouldn't matter, and being superior, inferior shouldn't matter either.
So in the novel Frankenstein, Victor, it was supposed to create the monster as beautiful, but as we read on, the monster was made freakish looking, so that turned the monster violent because no one wanted to be around him because they got scared of him. So in today's society, we see that all over the place because so many people are so obsessed with being beautiful and so obsessed of fitting in that many people are taking drastic measures such as plastic surgery or even becoming anorexic or bulimic. They're just becoming something that they're not, just to make themselves think that they're beautiful.
The Bluest Eye, it talks about body image because we see that it's mainly based on a character list of almost all black characters and how they feel from the white point of view and how they feel prejudiced. Typically back then you would associate black people with slaves, like doing housework and all that, and being dirty. Actually, it's still practiced today in 2019. Except this time, we see Muslims because of their practices and because of the whole terrorism debate. We see Hispanics still being discriminated upon because of the whole wall and border situation. We see, especially in Montana, Native Americans, we see them as kind of like homeless and like drug addicts. We also still see Black people as inferior in some places, especially with the whole Black Lives and Black Power movement going on.
So in the show Nosedive, we see how much it mattered to like Lacey of like the ratings that you got on like the Post, and she was so obsessed with how she looked. She ran all the time because she wanted to get that perfect fit in society, and she cared about what she posted because she wanted to get those big ratings. And you even see that in today's world. So many people, like even especially teenagers and adults, they have different like types in like their like what they want in their like relationships. Like for guys, you see they want the big butt or the big boobs, and then for like girls, they want the abs or the muscular body or athletic. And then also they care so much on how they look and how they dress, and even like what kind of friend group you're in, because if you're in the popular friend group, many people will want to be friends with you, and if you're like in the geeky group or the band group, nobody will want to like be with you because they just see you as like the weird people.
So in Enoch and the Gorilla, it talks repeatedly in the beginning about how he has chipped teeth, and that's why everyone looks at him differently. I feel like this contributes to society today because everyone wants to fit in, to be average. You don't want to stand out from others. So this could be seen as like buying the latest UGG boots or the latest clothes that everyone is wearing. Like I know that happens here at Carroll, so it still happens today. That could include like changing the way you look, putting on makeup, changing your hair, fitting into cliques to make you look like an average student, which we can see that Enoch was not average because he was kind of othered from everyone else. This can also be seen in social media today. If you don't have social media, you're seen as weird and people look at you differently, psychologically and physically.
In Ex Machina, Ava is a robot who actually looks like a human because of like her features and how Nathan creates her. And it's crazy because Caleb actually starts to fall in love with Ava because of like how human like she actually is. And in the end, she actually turns in, puts skin on and clothes, and actually goes out into the human world, and the pilot actually doesn't even know if she's a robot or a human. So in today's society, technology is growing so fast that we have no idea of like what's going to happen, because like there's robots that are like moving themselves around, and probably they're going to learn how to clean the house and do other sorts of things like that. So like in the future, as if technology keeps growing, there might be more Avas, and we might not know like which is a human and which is not.
So as Kaylee mentioned, we honestly have come to the point where we don't know robots from humans. In this picture, you will see that there's two females. However, one of them is a robot, and I want you to guess which one. If you guessed it was the right one, you're wrong. If you guessed the left, you're right. This is a social media influencer, Lil Michaela, and she has gained a bunch of popularity on Instagram for being the first ever robot model / human.
As we talked about, body image is a big thing today, especially through social media and even through society. Don't change your looks just because someone wants you to, because if we all try to be the same as everyone else, we will just end up on an episode of The Black Mirror.